Hi there, Damien here, back again for my second presentation. Now, for this one, I just thought I'd give you a rundown on the tools that I've accumulated over my woodworking and cabinet making career, just to give you an idea of some of the things or some of the tools that will make your life easier in your trade. Now, I started off as a cabinet maker, so some of these tools are more in line with that trade, doing kitchens predominantly, and then some are more in line with solid timber work, which I've been doing ever since I finished my apprenticeship. So now the thing about tools is you get what you pay for. So yeah, if you can afford it, buy the best tools that you can afford. I made the mistake of cheaping out on chisels when I started my trade, and I thought, because I wasn't very good at sharpening chisels at the time, my reasoning was that I'd rather wear out a cheap set of chisels and throw them away and sort of make them a sacrificial set. Big mistake. I should have bought an average. I probably paid $30, whereas if I'd have paid $60, I would have got a really good set and would have made my life a lot easier. So on that front, buy yourself a decent set of chisels. Like I said, $60, maybe $80 will buy you a good set. These are Irwin chisels, and there's four in a set. Now, you don't always have to buy new tools. I quite like going to garage sales, and over the years I've managed to find some really lovely tools. This one here is absolutely my favourite chisel. It is, I was going to say an inch wide, but it's inch and a quarter wide. And I don't know who made it or where it's come from, but the steel in this thing is just absolutely fabulous. And when I get that sharp, it just cuts like butter and makes life so much easier than you would ever imagine. So if you're up for that sort of thing, keep an eye on Marketplace, on Facebook or Gumtree or what have you, don't overlook using second-hand tools, or maybe asking someone in your family, grandfathers, uncles, aunties, whatever, if they've got any tools they don't need, because you can sometimes really score. Another one I picked up at a garage sale, actually there's two. So I've got two planes here that I picked up. Actually, they might have been just, I think they were listed on the supermarket, buy, swap and sell, or Marketplace, or whatever you call it here in America. This little block plane, so I think I paid $30 for the pair of those. Gosh, you'd probably pay $300 for the pair of those new. This little block plane, it's, what is it? I don't even know. Oh, Stanley, there we go. It's number 220. Very handy for both kitchen work and for solid timber work. I don't know what it is, whether it's the size. It just comes in so much. So handy for just these little jobs where you might really quickly want to plane something. Bigger planes like this one, which is number 4.5. Number 5, oddly, is probably almost half as long again. So I don't know how the sizes work. But bigger planes are more useful for bigger jobs. But one of those things that you have, if you have them, you probably don't use them terribly often. But when you need them, you do need them, so it's good to have them on hand. Okay, still recording. One thing you want to do when storing these is wind the blade back, especially because this one lives in my toolbox with all manner of other metal objects. So what I don't want is that blade to get chipped. So that's lived in this toolbox for 15 years. Still in really good condition. That's one thing that's probably quite vital for the trade, is get yourself a decent toolbox to carry all your tools in. I've had that for longer than I've had that plane. It's plastic, but if you look after it, it'll last. So that's probably 18 years old, that toolbox, you can get metal ones, I think, but I don't know. There's something around that size. I don't know what that is, but is probably all you need. So, what else have we got? What else have we got? Oh, absolutely essential items, safety glasses, earmuffs. You need them. You're probably legally obliged to wear them. If I was employing you and you didn't have them or you weren't wearing them, you'd be out the door. Yes. So, good adjustable square. Absolutely vital. It's no good having a square if it's not square and accurate. These, I don't know, they're probably $100 for a decent one. Yeah, that's one thing I would advise. Do not cheap out on one of those. Absolutely vital. You will use that every day of your trade. Another square I've picked up, also useful. Now, it's a fixed square, so there's no adjustment in that. So I know, this is an engineer's square. It's 150mm blade and really handy for setting things like the fence on a buzzer or surface planer, or the saw blade on a panel saw, something like that. You can also use an adjustable square just by simply undoing the knob, sliding the blade. If you buy a good one of those, you probably don't need an engineer square, but I don't know. There's been times where I've had to measure something. That'll be my go-to tool, the engineer square, because I know that is 100% square. While I'm on the subject of setting saw blades, a bevel box. So a lot of saws perhaps nowadays have a digital readout, a lot don't. This is basically a digital angle measurer, angleometer. Has a magnet on the side. You simply attach that to your saw blade and wind your blade over, and it will tell you the angle that it's at. So you can set that at absolute 0. Great also if you are doing miters and you want to set it to 45 degrees. Really handy, not terribly expensive, maybe $40. Great tool to have. What else have we got? Rulers. Tape measure. That's something, of course, you're going to use every day. Make sure it is accurate, or reading accurately. I picked up one the other day and it had taken a knock, and the tab on the end was bent, and luckily I picked it up straight away. But if that tab is bent and you hook that over, say, a piece of tin to measure something, it will give you an inaccurate measurement. To check that it's measuring correctly, pretty simple. Hook it over a piece of timber or a bench, put a mark at 100, then put the 100 mark, 100mm mark on the edge of the bench, and you should be 100mm from the mark to the edge of the bench. If it's not, you can just simply get a pair of pliers and then bend that either way. When I was doing my apprenticeship, there was a kid who actually tried to glue that little tab. Now it slides back and forth, so that allows for when you're either butting up, say, to the inside of a cabinet to take a measurement, or if you're pulling on the outside of a board to take a measurement. So it will move the thickness of that tab, which is probably, I don't know, 1.5mm, 2mm, something like that. So it needs to move. Don't ever glue that up. Other ruler you can use, if you like to carry that around, is a folding rule. I'm not a big fan of these. I don't know, I just find them cumbersome, and I only ever tended to use the bottom 100mm. Great for accurate measuring, but the better alternative would be to get a well, I don't know what these are called, whether these are an engineer's rule, possibly. Just a 150mm rule. Great for measuring, say, the thickness of timber. You simply put it on top, and you can butt it up with the edge, get a measurement, and here you go, that's 50.5mm, I think. Also great if you're filling. If you want to use, you need something to put putty in imperfections, say in tabletop or whatever it is you're doing. Great for pushing putty in. but be warned, it will wear away, and best to designate one solely for putty and one solely for measuring. So get 2 of those. Another measuring tool that I've got that is absolutely indispensable is a vernier. Now this is basically a measuring tool that will, how do I explain, is very, I don't know, it's measuring thicknesses. So, well, there you go. My measuring rule there before is not accurate. So, great for measuring, say, thickness of a timber or a tabletop, or say you're machining or thicknessing something down, or sanding, putting something through a wide belt sander. And if you know that you need to finish at 40 millimeters, this will absolutely tell you. The other thing you can do is, we're using the end of the tool, is you can close that up, set that on the side, and you can measure down this way using the tail. So you can measure, say, a rebate if you're planing out a rabbit or a rebate. Yeah, and that tail there gives you a measurement here. So once again, 49 millimeters. Not sure what you pay for one of those. Yeah, they're probably not cheap for a decent one. Once again, yeah, buy a decent one. Something like I've had that for 10 years. Yeah, if you look after them, they don't like being dropped. No, no precision tools probably do, but if you look after that, it'll look after you, and you'll be able to use it, probably hand it down to your kids and grandkids. Okay, still recording. What else? What else we got? Oh, now sometimes you can make tools. You don't have to buy them. That there is just a block of wood. So that harks back to my kitchen making days. My motorhome making days, and we used to put a locking catch on cabinet doors, and sometimes it needed to be just bent a little bit. It was just a metal, almost like an L bracket. So basically just made up a block. The bracket would slide in there, and it's simply just a matter of adjusting the bracket. Yeah, I don't know why I still have that. I haven't used that in years, but anyway, you just never know when you might need something. What else we got? Oh, countersink bits. There's a tool that you will use every day. For a kitchen maker, you will probably use a 3mm or a 1/8. 1/8 is 3.18 mil. Drill bit, and then just with your attached countersink bit. For solid timber furniture, you probably want a 5mm drill bit for drilling clearance holes. When screwing timber panels together, you need to allow them to expand and contract, which they will. If they move, they can snap screw heads, so that's why you have a 5mm hole, which allows a little bit of movement around the screw. The screw will hold the board in place, but it still needs to allow for that expansion and contraction. Because in kitchens you're using manufactured board, not necessary. So for solid timber, still handy to have both the 3 or 1/8 mil, 1/8 an inch, and the 5mm. What else have we got? Done that one. What else have we got? Sharpening stone, absolutely vital for keeping chisels in good condition. Now this particular one has both so this is a whetstone, it's called a whetstone. So I keep that wet with this WD-40 every time I go to use it, just a light squirt. And so that's got a coarse side and a fine side. So when sharpening, you basically start on the coarse side, finish on the fine side to get yourself a nice sharp blade. Cork block, used to use that for kitchens as well as in solid timber furniture, and yeah, just handy for wrapping sandpaper around. If you're ironing on it, if you're ironing on a timber veneer, yeah, also great for just pushing on the mini tape. So that's veneer board. If you're pushing that on, or if you just want to sand something, you just wrap a bit of sandpaper around. So you might want to arras an edge, wrap your sandpaper around and just take the edge off the panel. This one here is a, what do you call that? An angle driver bit. So this would go into your driver drill, and it's used for screwing screws almost at a perpendicular, so right angle, in hard to get to places. Absolutely handy tool. Not something you use all that often, but when you need to put a screw, or when you need to put a fixing in a hard to get to spot, you'll suddenly realise how valuable that is. Just about any tool shop will have one of those. What else have we got? Oh, drills. Whether it's kitchens or solid timber furniture, you are going to need a decent set of drills. I was always a bit of a Makita fan. A mate of mine had Bosch tools and he loved them, so I sort of gave them a shot. I'm a bit of a fan now. These drills have just been absolutely bulletproof. I've had these for, at least 5 years, and the batteries and the drills themselves are still going strong. So I reckon 5 years out of a drill is pretty good going. What else have we got? There's some tools you don't sort of need until you need them. Got an assortment of driver bits. So we've got PH2. So the screws come in, well, nowadays two main types. You've got PH2 and Posi drive. It's just a different shape of driver bit or screw head. But if you can find yourself a set of driver bits, this one's got flat ones. It's got different, PH2 in different smaller head sizes and larger head sizes, and then you've even got star-shaped ones, which I don't think I've ever used those. And then I've also got, what are these? Hex head bits for probably more for roofing or something, but still handy to have. You just never know when you might need those. Adjustable bevel, once again, vital bit of kit. You can use that as a measuring tool as well as a marking out tool. So if I had, if I had a cabinet, let me think about this. If I had something, say internally, I wanted to measure, I would basically just adjust the blade, drop that in, take the measurement, and say I wanted to replicate an angle. I'll basically use that, put that up against what I need to replicate, take that to my workpiece, and then I can use that as a marking gauge. And I know that that angle there is going to be exactly as the same as the piece I want to replicate. That's probably about it. Oh, what have we got here? Rubber mallet. Handy. Handy. Yeah, it still gets used in timber work. We used to use that for kitchens a little bit. We used to nail them together as well as screw them together. So we'd nail and then tap them into position and then screw them, but that doesn't really happen. I don't think any kitchens get nailed together anymore. Still probably handy in solid timber, just for tapping your work into position sometimes. Probably get yourself one of those. That's just a cheapie. That's nothing really expensive. Once again, I've had that for 15, 18 years or something. So that's probably something you don't have to worry about buying the best of the best. And the last one I've got is a marking gauge, which I'll be using for my next video. So this is used for setting out. So rather than use, say, your adjustable square and pencil, which you can do also. So for example, with an adjustable square, I would set that to 20 millimeters and then use that to mark a line. What the adjustable, what the marking gauge does is same kind of thing, but it marks a line with a sharp needle, metal needle, rather than a pencil. So that mark, you can use that, say, if you're setting out mortise and turn joints, or yeah, that's a good example. So you might want to set, you want to mark out where the end of your tenon goes. So you would set that distance to 20 millimeters. So if you had, where's your little, that's where your little 150 mil, this little 150 mil rule comes in handy. Set that to 20 millimeters. And then you can put a mark across the end of your material. Simply it's a matter of sliding that across and just scratching the mark. And that way, every time you make a measurement, every time you make a mark, it will be exactly the same on every piece that you are setting out. And that just creates consistency and it creates accuracy. And that's exactly what you want, whether it's kitchens or solid timber work. That's not something you'd use in kitchens, but consistency is definitely something you want to aim for in every trade. I think that might be it. Hope you've enjoyed the presentation.